What's up, guys? It's Damp. Yeah, you guys have been asking for this for a long time. Due to circumstances that the devs have basically let me know that there won't be any major changes, hopefully coming, I've decided to, at least not in the near future, I've decided to release the updated class guides. So prior to releasing the updated class guides, I wanted to make a video about my playstyle and some general tips in how these guides are constructed so you'll know that if it fits within your playstyle or not. So the target audience for this, we'll first of all talk about that, is typically somebody who's a beginner to an intermediate player. But if you're more advanced, you might be able to pull something from the way I play to, maybe cater to your style as well. Here's the overall introduction. So to preface this, let's talk about what this guide is designed around. So this guide is designed around dungeons and not boss fights. We're not looking at killing the Baron. We're not looking at killing the Hag. These are designed for general dungeon crawling, essentially. And primarily, if you're a newer player, I'd recommend focusing on the Ruins or the Cove, because I feel these are the most forgiving. Probably the Ruins is the most forgiving out of all of them. But the Weldon Warrens can be somewhat of a money pit with some of the diseases, and some of the people who are, or the monsters that are in these dungeons can one-shot you or at least hit you significantly hard. It almost puts you on death's door in a one-shot, depending on your party. So now that you kind of know that this is really designed around dungeons, I'm going to tell you what dungeons you probably want to focus on. Based off these guides and the way that I play, I would say they're most effective for medium gathering quests, medium exploration quests. Not short, long's fine, but really not short because it's the least forgiving. The short dungeons, what happens with those is since you don't get that campfire, you can come out of it with a little more stress. I feel you have to be a lot more aggressive in the short dungeons. Sometimes drop your healer, and sometimes RNG isn't very good to you when you look at doing that. So what I'm going to recommend is that you stick to medium gather and medium exploration quests. Sometimes the medium battles can be fine too, or activating the shrines. Those aren't bad, but I would focus on these simply because the focus on scouting I'm going to cover will hopefully touch on that and explain why I say these are the best ways to go. So my playstyle for these guides is going to be somewhat conservative compared to some of my peers who I know play the game and like to bring 4 DPS characters. Because this is centered around newer to intermediate players, I think it's more important to understand the mechanics of the game to basically bring a healer unless you're going to run a short dungeon. Almost 95 to 99% of the time I'm going to bring a healer unless I'm running a shorter dungeon or there's specific circumstances that I feel I don't need a healer. So with that, we'll kind of look on what the focus of the playstyle is. So the focus of the playstyle is based around elimination of enemy turns. So when I say that, I'm looking at killing off monsters rather than prolonging the fight and trying to heal through it. Scouting will also be critical, so you're going to look at bringing characters like, we'll see probably the Grave Robber is, in my opinion, the best scout in the game. You're looking at prioritizing not necessarily their scouting chance, but by bringing a trinket like this one, it does increase the scouting chance. What scouting does for you essentially is it's going to mitigate the amount of damage and stress that your character takes throughout a run, because you can pick and choose what battles you want to be in if you get those scout checks, which are pretty common. You also have that option that if you bring somebody who's a good scout, they can get a critical scout check and you'll get the treasure, which is either trinkets or a good amount of money that can happen throughout that dungeon. It also allows you to complete dungeons faster, and it saves you money because you're not having to heal additional stress that you don't necessarily have to in looking at, if you're going in blind, you're probably going to be more likely to be surprised. You're more likely to take stress and damage both, which if you're taking damage, it means that your healer cannot be as aggressive as they should be, meaning your enemy turns are prolonged, meaning that their enemy lives are prolonged, meaning it's just kind of a vicious cycle. So scouting is absolutely critical to this playstyle. So as we talk through, kind of to sum up some of the little notes that I want to make sure to cover as you guys are looking at these guides. So, first thing is you're healing only at the character that you're looking at being at probably 40 to 45% of their health or less. So, for example, if we look at the Vestal here, you're going to use Judgment a hell of a lot. So, you may want to use some accuracy trinkets or some accuracy quirks in order to set that off, because the accuracy base isn't absolutely fantastic that she has. If you were to bring the Occultist, same situation applies. You may need to be a little more, maybe under 65% or 60%, instead of the Vest being under 40%, because he is so inconsistent with his heals that sometimes you're going to need to make that option. But utilizing the Vestal, she's going to outperform in this playstyle for me because she's much more consistent and reliable when it comes to the heals. So if you're using an Occultist, you're probably going to run him in slot 3 because he's able to be more aggressive on those first few turns. As we look at a couple things, you're going to limit using your AoE. So a lot of times people go, oh my god, they have AoE, they're amazing. So for example, if we look at Yop, it does have the ability to hit the first 2 rows, which is good. If you notice, the damage mod is less. And she also takes a debuff, so for me that's a minus. The only time I'm going to use AoE is when I have a 75% chance or better of killing or eliminating one enemy turn. So if I have that opportunity, I would use AoE, but I'm pretty selective in this playstyle. As we look at trinkets, we're going to be prioritizing trinkets that are hastening enemy turn elimination or aiding in stress reduction. So I guess to put that bluntly, we're looking at increased damage, probably increased scout or speed for our utility characters, and our healers as well. I would want them to be fast because you don't want RNG. You don't want to rely on RNG when it comes to needing to get a heal off with somebody on death's door. You want to do everything you can to help yourself and offset that by bringing a speed trinket. So you're looking primarily at speed and crit, and you're avoiding the plus 10% to stress that you see here. Like on the Ancestor's Pen, this is one that I could go both ways. Because you're getting that additional crit, it's going to offset some of the stress that you're getting because you're going to crit more, in theory, by bringing this pen. You're also doing more damage on your melee, which is really, really good. But you got to remember all those values that these are contributing to are essentially truncated. What that means is they're rounded down. So if those things are rounded down, keep in mind if you're only hitting for, let's say you hit for 10 damage and you have a 15% damage melee skill that's on there, you're not going to go to 12. It's not going to round up. It's going to round down to 11. So with that being said, keep in mind those are percentage increases. Now, one example that I can give you is something that I would definitely recommend because it doesn't have the negative stress is... Now I gotta find it. I gotta see who it's on. Let me sort this real quick. But there's a lot of trinkets, for example, that aren't as flashy. But if you look at the surgical gloves, 5% crit and 5% accuracy to melee, and there aren't really that many negatives that come with this trinket, and there isn't negative or additional stress. Additional stress long term is going to cause you more money, a chance at a heart attack, people getting stressed out when they shouldn't be. Absorbing some of your camping points that you need to utilize. So I really avoid those plus stress trinkets unless they're very, very strong, which Ancestor's Pen is. That's a good case for one. But there's a lot of them that aren't. So I'll just pick out one here really quick. So this Ancestor's Portrait is another example of one that's good, but it's selective. When you're going to level up a character, it's great. But once they're level 5 or 6, you don't really need to worry about it. This Junia's Head, for example, you look at this, you're getting 20% extra stress, and wow, you have 30 healing skills. Well, if we look at your, if we take a look at your Vestal here, and we see the Vestal is typically going to heal for 9, let's say she heals for 10, is to make it easy. So you go from healing 10 to healing 13. Is that really worth plus 20 stress? I really don't think so. So that's kind of some basic parameters behind the guide, guys. So hopefully that's helpful and gives you some context. I've been writing scripts for almost, I feel like, 2 months now, and I haven't published the videos. waiting on changes. So I'm making some final edits. You'll probably see the first one come out. I'm hoping over the next day or so I'll have it out. Where I'm at right now, the upload speed's atrocious, so you got to give me some time. But you'll still be seeing Darkest Dungeon content from me for sure. I hope you guys are enjoying the DLC, the Shield Breaker. I think that DLC was extremely valuable for $4. So I'll go back through all the classes again, just like I did previously. And then at the very end of that, I'm going to update the top 10 tips that I put out. And we're going to change that to update for Crimson Court. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for all your support over the last couple months. It's been awesome. Hopefully this was helpful to you. And I'll see you, the Vestals, who we're going to start off with. So that'll be the first guide I'll release, and it'll be over the next few days. Thanks, guys. See ya.